As a moderator, I think I have the advantage to shoot the first question to both speakers, but feel free to raise your question. It's an open section for the floor. You may like to write on the paper, but you can also stand up and ask your question if you want to. But my first question for both speakers is that, 对不起，我用中文。
I will use Chinese. Now, just now, both of you had shared with us about your company's development. Now, from Hong Kong's perspective, we attach more importance as to why was it that you chose Hong Kong to be the basis of your global operations, and what strength do you see in Hong Kong? And just like Mr. Wong has said, Hong Kong has its weaknesses as well as strength. You were comparing Hong Kong with Singapore and Shenzhen. Both of them would present pressure to Hong Kong. Now, your company is now in Hong Kong, and Hong Kong serves as your global headquarters. Under what circumstances do you think you would move to Shenzhen or to Singapore? Everbright International is a Hong Kong listed company. We also have Everbright Green Environmental Protection Company is also listed in Hong Kong. Last year, we were listed also in Singapore with our water business. Frankly speaking, Singapore's financial markets capabilities is way weaker than Hong Kong. So as far as financing and capital market is concerned, Hong Kong strength when compared to Singapore and also with the mainland is hardly comparable. So it feels good to be based in Hong Kong and to use Hong Kong to move to Poland and to Vietnam and internationally. In Poland, we acquired the largest solid waste company. 10% of Poland's city waste is now treated by China Everbright. Now, last year I was in Poland. The Poland embassy. The Poland government called the embassy in Hong Kong, and who invited me for tea in his office, and then I got my visa. That was actually quite convenient. So I think with financing and with capital arrangements, Hong Kong has capabilities that does not exist, or that is not comparable by Shenzhen and Singapore. So in the short term, you definitely won't move. Mr. Shen, just now, when I was sharing, I actually already explained what the considerations that we had for Hong Kong. We actually went through very careful deliberation before deciding to headquarter in Hong Kong. So be it talent, be it governance, business environment, Hong Kong has very evident advantage. Just now I also mentioned that I had stayed in Hong Kong for over 6 years now, and I personally feel that there are a lot of things that Hong Kong is still advanced at this point of time. So for the time being, I don't think we would move.
Any question from the floor before I go for my next question? Okay. To be honest, I try to take something bad for Hong Kong, as that is not my idea, because that's the things I get when I travel outside Hong Kong. People complain about Hong Kong. One thing that most people complain about is cost, high cost. High cost for labor, high cost for business, high cost for living, fresh. How that factor affects your operation? And I'm not asking what you want us to do, but because I think the whole government is looking for a way to handle it. But to what extent that cost to borders your operation? That's my question.
Indeed, Hong Kong, as far as cost is concerned, especially land cost, living cost, is very high and doesn't seem to want to come down. And that has an impact on operations. Now, Everbright International, we had made some deployment in terms of our spaces. For example, we're headquartered in Hong Kong for international, and our mainland domestic headquarters is in Shenzhen. So that would cut down our operating costs, and while at the same time we can leverage on the convenience between Shenzhen and Hong Kong, and then effectively build the Chinese market. And Hong Kong, indeed, its high living cost, property cost in the future would probably have an impact and pose a challenge to innovation development in Hong Kong in the future. I think as an innovator, as an entrepreneur, while it also needs to be the bread earner, to feed their family and to bring the child to good schooling, etc. And they would also need to have a good team and a good supply chain, and also whether the technology can be well bridged with the market. So I believe this would be a huge challenge for Hong Kong. Now, just like other countries, crosses the middle income group, that would be a challenge that Hong Kong also has to face in order to bring a much brighter future. Hong Kong's living cost is indeed very high. I came from the mainland, I can feel that. But I think this is comparative. It has its heights, its expensiveness, and yet it has its wealth, its strength. I can feel that the Hong Kong workers are very diligent because they have very vivid targets. They are driven. They are mobilized. They would go for their own values. They would relentlessly try to improve their standards of living. So things comes hand in hand. There are two sides to the same coin. If the Hong Kong government can somehow release some of those pressure as far as cost is concerned, it may be very helpful for the development of Hong Kong.
One is what Mr. Wang has said, that 结合 把香港好的地方跟其旁边好的
To combine the strength of Hong Kong with the strength of other places, use the land in Shenzhen and the talent in Hong Kong. And second point is that
it makes it, as long as that's justifiable, cost is not a concern. I hope that helps to explain my understanding. But we have a question from our Japanese participants. It's for both speakers. Today, there are many participants from Japan here. I would like to ask all of you, both of you, are there any idea or advice on partnership with Japanese company using Hong Kong? It didn't say what kind of partnership, whatever, but I guess it's just an idea of when you're dealing with different parties, are there anything particularly you think that you may give advice to the Japanese company where you want to cooperate with?
光大国际是一个环保企业。
China Everbright is an environmental industry, environmental protection industry. Therefore, we attach a lot of importance to two areas. One is Europe. In Switzerland, they have very advanced environmental protection technologies. The second would be Japan. Japan excels in environmental protection. Therefore, we are looking for opportunities for exchanges and cooperation with Japan on environmental protection and technologies. I believe China, as a national principle, is also doing that. In a couple of days, the NDRC would be organizing a 700 delegation, 700 with 700 representatives from various Chinese companies to Japan to exchange and cooperate on various kinds of environmental protection technologies. and with various Japanese companies. So if you're interested in here, please pay attention to ecosystem building and environmental protection measures in China. I believe this would provide a lot of opportunities for Japanese companies. Actually, China Mobile International has a lot of cooperation with Japanese companies globally. Now, if one is to offer a suggestion, say China Mobile Hong Kong has been providing a lot of services to domestic market, especially those services relating to smart city. I believe in Japan there are a lot of successful cases, including excellent applications that are very successful. I believe in this area there are a lot of room and space for us to exchange and learn and so that we can provide better services to Hong Kong.
Here I have a question specific for Mr. Shen. Could be related with what you have talked about also, but you may like to elaborate more if you want to. Can you share what key elements you are looking for in your partners for cooperation or collaboration? Also, besides banks and telecommunication companies, what types of companies are you interested in to cooperate with? 所以你那个银行 telecom， 它有什么样的案例？
You mean apart from when you are looking for partners, what are the requirements? Well, the cases that I had shared just now would be examples, say banks. Well, as you can say, China Mobile is an operator. We are pursuing the connectivity as a strategy, which is our strength, I believe. However, with application, I think I've already pointed out in my previous sharing, as far as application is concerned, it is really industry specific. For example, if you are in the hospitality industry or the education industry, you would know what are the requirements and the demands very thoroughly. So I believe it is a mutual cooperation. We provide the very basic connectivity and data digging and value-added services. However, the industry would be the first-hand, the provider of first-hand information about very specific demands and needs, because you know your industry well. So we are open to any kind of cooperation.
We still have a few questions, but I think it's very specific on particular sectors or companies. I will relate to our speaker later on. But may I have the right to ask the last question? Because we have an expert on PPP here. Dr. Wang is the advisor on the UN PPP Advisory Committee. And we know that in Belt and Road we have a lot of PPP projects, and we have to develop different kinds of PPP, and not so much of just those well developed in the industrial world, but also in some of the new developing countries. So may I ask Dr. Wang to share some of his insights about how he sees, either use your company's experience or others' experience, to see what kind of elements in doing PPP with these Belt and Road countries we have to pay attention to.
OK，因为 PPP 的话是 public-private partnership， 这是一个英国最早产生的一个概念，大家知道它是要中国政府把它翻译成政府与社会资本合作，那么它的字义翻应该是公司伙伴关系。
This concept actually came from China, PPP. This is because the various countries, be it developed or developing, when the government is providing infrastructure and services, they are lacking, sometimes both in funds as in experience. So they would need the help from the private industry to bridge this gap. We know that in 2015, the UN has launched a 2030 Global Sustainable Development Framework. By then, there would be 7 SDGs. Sustainable Development Goals. Now, amongst these, most of it would be around infrastructure, services, and products. Therefore, the UN is of the opinion that in order to realize these targets, one needs to move to the PPP model. Now, say Belt and Road, a lot of the countries are developing with not so good infrastructure and public services. So this is a huge opportunity. So to alert you as a private company to invest in PPP projects in developing countries, you must work on your risk management, because PPP projects, usually have a 1 or 2 decades time span. So the sovereignty of the government and the changes, in the government, administration, these are areas that you need to look at.
Before we start, actually, Dr. Wang have asked one interesting question. How good is our simultaneous interpreters doing the translation? Now I understand why he asked this, because it's really difficult to translate. For all those terminologies he used and we cover in this section. But anyway, I enjoy a lot. I hope you enjoy a lot. And I have to thank our simultaneous interpreters for the hard work and the good work they have done